Hi everyone, welcome to my follow-on video about the simulator that I use to race against other people on iRacing. So iRacing, if you don't know, is all about racing real-life people in another part of the world or on the next street to you. So you don't have AI, anything at all like that. So it's all about competition, you against them, and that's what makes it probably the most competitive out there at this point. So what we're talking about today is my SimRig. I do have a video that I've made maybe 18 months, 2 years ago. I will link that below. But what we're talking about today is about somebody with a disability, which I am, and how we can build a rig to make us as ourselves with whatever disability that you have competitive to then race and hopefully race well against other people. So myself, I was 21, I went on holiday and broke my neck, so I can't stand or walk anymore, so I use a wheelchair, and I'm disabled from the chest down. I can't feel or move anything below my chest, and on top of that I also have restricted movement in my hands. So with all of those sorts of restrictions, well, you've got to think about how is it I want to do this. So got some photos to show next. We've also got a video about how I get in and out of the rig, and then I'm also going to show some driving of how I use this and against the sim, against other people, and race. Okay, so you'll hear some clicks. That's just me moving the screens around, moving the things forward and playing the videos and whatnot. So what we have here is how it originally started. I borrowed the Ferrari wheel from work, bolted it in the way that you would to the desk. I've got the monitor there. You can see a Sept Corsa was the first thing I bought. I haven't really touched it since, and managed to buy the Alfa Romeo leather chair you can see there. Now that was used, it was pulled out of a car that was going to be scrapped, so they left it on the standard runners that it would have and bolted that to a piece of wood. Now what we've done is taken that piece of wood and then just strapped it to a piece of furniture. It is safe and stable. A friend, Wayne, managed to make sure of that, and yeah, everything was safe. Don't worry about that. So the way that I would brake and gear up and throttle is through the little joystick to the left, or the sort of the joystick. So I think it was forward to throttle, back to brake, I think, and then I used the triggers and whatnot to change gears with the, whichever way I could try and press the buttons. So that's how we originally worked it. And then as soon as I knew that was the right way I wanted to go, what I then did, my friend Wayne Edmondson, who happens to be a joiner, he built out of 2x4 this rig. So we had a look and thought, okay, what sort of designs do people have? So we took some measurements, made sure that there's enough space for me to get in and out. We put the chair and its runners on the top of this, so that allows me to get in and out. So as you can see, I bought a Thrustmaster TX. I also bought the Husingval Engineering pedals there. It's the Pro version at this point. And because of the rim that's on the TX, I didn't like it very plasticky, creaky, and I didn't like the buttons or use the gear shifters, is that I took that off and I used the Derek Spears design adapter, which allows you to put the 50 and the 70mm patterns into use there. We've got a platform at the top, and so that's one of the I think it's the first monitor that I managed to get my hands on there. Now the door on the right hand side is hinged in 3 different areas. So we've got a hinge on the main upright structure, and we've got a hinge halfway through, and what that allows it to do is, as a door, is to collapse in on itself and then swing out of the way, and we've got a little sort of door kick down the bottom to stop it from moving. So what would happen is, in my wheelchair, I would roll to the right hand side with the door open, jump across, move my feet across, just move the chair out of the way, slide myself forward like you would normally do with a car on its own runners, a car chair on its own runners, and then just close the door, and then we're back into position. So how that would work with me in it is exactly like this, and you'll see this on the previous video that I mentioned about going ahead and watching there. So 3 screens are in play at this point. We can see that my elbow is on the back pedal, which is the throttle pedal. So I would move my elbow backwards. That would give me throttle. Underneath my right wrist is a black knit switch sticking out from the top part of the wood. I would hit that for gearing up as I'm throttling, and then when I want to change, so when I want to brake, I push my palm of my hand forward onto the brake pedal, extend my fingers, and that would trigger another knit switch to come down the gears. Little white things, little white plastic either side, they're on knitter switches as well. They're more like things for like radio, those kind of things, just in sim. On this particular design, we did make two changes. So eventually I changed the TX and I went out and bought the original OSW sort of pre-made kit from Tomo at SimRacing Bay. I bought the Ioni version of that. So that replaced the TX, and I also decided to change the way that I would brake or use the controls. So we made like a metal structure that allows me to put the pedals and use hand controls like I have in the car already. And that was all a temporary measure that was built into this rig. But the reason why I changed away from this is purely because I outgrew it. All of the hand controls that I did put into it was just crowding it all out, and that's the only reason why we went over to an 80/20 profile rig. So we sort of grew out of it, but to be quite honest, it was bulletproof. It was rock solid, and it didn't complain once. It didn't let me down once. Absolutely fantastic for how cheap it is when you just buy some wood and knock it together with a basic design. So what we've moved on to, and this is what we now have today, we've swapped out the chair, as you can see. We now have an OMP WRC XL version of their chair. I'm 6'6", so I need a taller chair. We've now swapped out the triple screens, which were 1080p 60 frames, to the ROG Swift IPS version with 165 frames per second. And the top monitor is the original monitor that you saw in the first picture. We can see that we've also got the hand controls there on the right hand side, which is a handle. I'll come to that in a moment. And while I was upgrading from the wood rig to the profile rig, I also decided to upgrade the pedals from the Pro to the Ultimate versions with Husingvel. So I took them up on their upgrade path. So you send the pedals back, they give you that as the original value as a credit, and then you just pay the difference to the Ultimates. The other thing that I also did, I sold on the Ioni version of the OSW and changed that to the SimuCube version, which now has the sort of the open beta software, which makes an amazing difference in my opinion. All right, okay, so what we're going to do here, we're just going to change the view a little bit so we can see a little bit more down the side of the rig, and we can see a little bit more. We're going to get closer in a moment, but we can see that we've got some, to me looks like hand controls, which float underneath the steering wheel. And then we have a means that the controls go down and attach to the pedals. So I'll just skip this on a little bit more, and then we'll get to see hand controls as they are in a traditional car. So because I can't use my feet, we need to be able to control the pedals in a car. I can't use a clutch, so it's all about using an automatic or a semi-automatic car. So these are regulated by UK government, as I understand this, hand controls. You can buy them off eBay, and that's exactly what I've done. People that have finished with the cars need to take these off so they can sell it in the normal way to the normal market. So I bought this from eBay, not particularly this version, but the ones that I use on the rig. So the way that these would attach traditionally in a car is that the pivot point or the attachment point that takes all of the brunt of the forces is attached to the underside of the steering column. Then the handle comes towards us, so the handle's the sort of the rubber stick that's on the left hand side in focus. We have a metal bar that goes from the arm down to the brake pedal. So it's always safety first. So you want something that's solid and metal that won't break. So you push to brake, and then you pull, which pulls a metal sort of rope, as it were, string, down to a mechanism just above the throttle pedal, which reverses the pull to a push, which then allows you to pull away. So how does that translate in real sense to what we do here on my rig? So we can see that we've got the hand controls we've got the metal bar that goes from the arm down to the brake pedal, and because the pedals are individually mounted, we can take away the need to have a mechanism that reverses your pull to a push on the throttle. So there's only me that uses this rig. There's no need for me to keep the throttle pedal in the traditional sense facing forward because nobody else uses it. So we mount the throttle pedal the reverse way so that when I pull and we've got the cable that pulls the throttle pedal, it just works in the way that you would expect it to. So then the next challenge is, how do you mount the pivot point that allows you to push and pull? So the way that it turns out to be a simple idea, but it took a while to get there. So with all of the profile that you can see here, I purchased the SimLab OSW bracket. I also purchased the 200mm extension, which gives us the room away from the motor to create the space that we need. So we'll just change to the next slide and we'll see around the back of the screens, and we can see the small major that I have mounted there. So we can see the black bracket, and we can see the bolts coming from the front to the back that hold the motor to the bracket. Now with every pre-assembled kit you get a standard motor mount that you would normally use to attach it to your profile rig, to a off-the-shelf rig, or just some wood rig that you build. But as you can see, we don't need to use that in this situation. We're using the SimLab bracket. So it's one of those things that comes to you when you're not really thinking about it. So I used a standard bracket. So I had it coming from the front of the SimLab bracket, and then it holds and bolts in the same way. So the original bracket goes on first. The bolt goes through the original bracket, goes through the SimLab bracket, and then goes through the motor holes that you can see there, and that bolts them all together. So what that gives us is 4 anchor points that we can attach a 6mm alley plate to, which gives us a platform to then bolt the pivot point. So we've created a mount point, a stability point that gives us what we need, and the 200mm extension gives us the space that we need to get all of these things in play. Now, what we've had to do, because of creating a longer 200mm extension for the steering wheel, and the way that you'll see me getting out of the car at the moment, a little bit later on a video, is with my hands on the brackets here. We've had to stop the motor from moving because the traditional bending, tightening brackets for me just don't. They hold for a little while, but this starts to move. So what we've done is just put a piece of profile on the underside of the OSW just to hold it, stop it from dipping at the back, and then stop it from raising at the back. We've just put just put a lot of tie wraps and a daisy chain to anchor it down. We've done that twice just to really anchor it down at the back so it doesn't lift and it doesn't drop at the back. So going forward from there, we now look at how I get in and out of the rig. So if you look at any of the profile rigs that you see, when you mount the chair to the structure, you pretty much line up almost like a tram or a railway style sort of left and right version that go forward to the uprights. So what we needed to do is to create the space to slide the chair out so I could hop in and then slide it forward. We'll see that in a video in a moment. So the way that Neil, who's a team member, so that's Neil Andrews 2 on iRacing, Neil, it's his fault for us buying the profile rig. It's my fault really, but it's his fault for doing it in the first place. So Neil ordered in all the parts. He built one for himself at home and got the understanding of how it all goes together, and then we came and worked on mine. So Neil managed to find what looks like little sleds. They fit within the profile slots that you can see. You can see that all of the profile there has got slots in. So what we bought is 4 of these, 2 of them standard that go at the back of the runners, and then we have 2 at the front where they have a tightening handle. So we build up a little bit more height So you can see there's a fatter version of the profile, and then the chair sits on top of that. So the reason why we put the fatter version in is just to get it to the right height for me to get in and out. So what would happen is that I would jump across, I would pull myself on the SimLab bracket, and then that would slide me forward, and we'll see that in a moment, and then I would just lock myself out. But you can see here, we've essentially got a sled that slides up and down the profile itself there. Right, so what we'll do, we'll just have a look at the video. It's a bit of a poor video quality-wise, but you'll get the understanding. So I roll up to the right hand side, just push away, and then all that would do, just get my feet out of the way a little bit so we can pull forward. Just pointing to a tape that marks the position I need to get to, so I get a consistent seated position against the hand controls and against the wheel. But you can see here, you can see how easy it is just to push and pull, and it just slides. It just really does slide. It's just like a hard polyurethane kind of plastic that just slides within the profile. So you can see with my right hand, I'm just tightening that up there on the right side. I'll go off and do the same on the left, so that locks me in, so I'm not going to move when I start pulling and pushing. And then you can see here we've built out an armrest that's on hinges that closes up, and we've got a little magnet that holds it. So I'm not putting a lot of pressure through with my elbow, but the magnet is enough just to hold it in place. And that is essentially how I get in and out. So you can imagine that all I do is just reverse that process when I want to get out. So from there, what we then sort of do is move on to what we're going to do next, which is driving in iRacing, and this is going to just allow to explain how this all works. So what we've managed to do is get two cameras. So one coming from the very top, just to quickly explain about what kind of issues I have with my hands. So quite thin, not much grip in there because I don't have the dexterity to move around. So I can't really grip too much. So I have to work on pressure and other devices to sort of help push and pull. So I'll just take this out of the way. So that's a glove that I used. This gives me nice grip on the rim itself. So this is the wheel looking down. We can see the little 200mm extension here, and on the other camera we can see the pedals. So we have the brake pedal, we have the throttle pedal. I've done away with the spring on the brake pedal. For me, there's just too much space there before I get to the real bite point of the brake. So I've configured this in the way that feels and works best for myself. So I'll just put my hand. So this is the hand control here. We can see that we've got the bar there. We can see that we've got the aluminium profile here, and this is the bracket that would normally come with a motor. As I say, we've reversed it and we've got it coming away from the motor itself, and we've bolted the profile on here, which then gives us a platform to bolt from the underside, the hand controls, which gives us a solid sort of push position here. So all I'm going to do, in the real car outside, I don't have shifters like this or like this. All I do, because it's automatic, there's no stress involved when you're driving around going to the shops. All I would do is pull and push, and you can see how that works the pedals there. But because everything's about getting to 100% or using force on the rig itself in iRacing or any other sim, when you do it repetitively and often enough, it gets to be quite wearing and taxing and sometimes painful. So we've had to sort of work in other ways, and because you don't want to use automatic gear change in iRacing, you need to be able to control the gearbox a little bit more effectively. So all we do is push, and you can see how the rubbers are compressing there, and then all I do would be to pull, and we can see how that works the pedal there. Right, so I'll do, I'll just put a glove on, and then I'll just show you how we change gear, but you can probably see that already. So I put my hand on, this gives me a nice grip as I mentioned before. So the way that I would change down, so when I'm braking, I would click this here. I've got a knitter switch that's on an arm that just juts out from the back, and you can probably hear that. I just press that down, so I brake and then I'm changing down there. So when I'm throttling up, when I want to change gear, I would just hit that little knitter switch there. So I would just work my way through the gears this way. Now, because of my hands, and as I mentioned before, I'll just put this into the camera view here, is that I have sweatband underneath, and I've got a leather sort of strap that velcros on, and it's got a system underneath here which is a little hook, like a little leather hoop there, that I can use a tie wrap again, so with more tie wraps, and this in itself allows me to hook onto the hand controls, so I don't have to wear out my hands. I don't have to stress the muscles on the underside of my forearms, which aren't as strong as you would want them to be. So what that allows me to do, it just gives me some reassurance that I can always pull while you're on a long straight, say down the Camel Straight at Spa, as a for instance. So I would pull on that, brake, pull, brake. So you can see how that all works. This item that you see at the top here, that's an SLI Pro sort of aluminium bracket. And the white thing that is on my lap is just to give a contrast. It's just a pillow, a white pillow, just to give contrast, so it helps you sort of see the controls that we're using. Right, so what we'll do, we shall just go ahead and go into a test session in iRacing. Just load that up. So we're just going to go around Silverstone. I'm just going to do a couple of laps, and then hopefully looking at the screen as you would normally expect to see it, or if you don't use iRacing before, you can get to see what iRacing looks like. You can see how I drive around and how I sort of hopefully compete against most people. So we use the HPD. Just go ahead and just jump into a test session. And so what we'll do, select first gear. I'm just going to pull away. Just change up as normal. And there you go. So you can see by the inputs that we have on display, you can see how much brake I'm using there, how much throttle, as a little meter or bar, as well as seeing how much the pedal and the controls move. So like most skills, it's all about getting to know your tools. So knowing where 25% throttle is, half, 50% is just time in the sim, and just driving and getting more and more used to the cars and what the car needs, while you're getting used to the controls that you're using. And that doesn't matter whether you're disabled and using hand controls like me, or whether you're just a guy that comes and grabs some pedals and a cheap wheel and getting used to it that way. You know, the learning curve is the same, just a little bit different. Right, okay, so let's start a lap. A little bit wide on turn one, no one. Round we come. So as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, you can see my name. My name is Paul Anscliffe. I'm also on Twitch every now and again as Wheels of Thunder. So by all means, if you see me pop up as a streamer at some points, I don't often stream, but I'm thinking about doing a little bit more of that. So Wheels of Thunder is what I use for Twitch. So if you see a green car come flying past you, if you use iRacing and you got my name, then you can always say hi. So I am part of a team called Fusion Racing. At the moment we're competing in DGFX. We've got 2 cars entered. We've got a HPD, which is a prototype car. And we also have a Ferrari GTE. So we're not doing too bad. I'm not too sure where we are positional wise. This was the last circuit, I believe. that the race happened, and I think it's Phillip Island next. So I decided not to race this season. I decided to be a standing driver whenever there's maybe an emergency where one of the guys can't get to the race, and I'll just jump in. So I just keep driving the Ferrari, and I'll just keep driving the HPD, and just make sure I'm aware of what how it's been set up and what's needed to get it around the track, and hopefully dodge all the traffic. So I generally like driving the HPD. It's a really, really nice car. I do like both the Ferraris that have come into iRacing. I think especially the GTE with all its additional downforce that it has, and then I do sort of jump into some of the other sorts of tin lid cars that they have there. Formula One car is you need, at this point I don't have enough additional buttons that I can reach to control that car. I don't think I need probably another 2 buttons so I can do ERS, DRS, those kind of things. So at this point in time it's just a little bit too complicated without getting into some more buttons or switches. So we can see we've got a time we can try and beat. We're on full fuel. Started this with full fuel, 60 kilograms. Nice stutter there from iRacing, thank you very much. It's always fun when you're in a prototype car going around some high speed turns. So you can see I can rifle through the gears quite quickly when I'm changing down, so it's always good to have the gear shift on the opposite hand to what you actually need, so I can be actually applying the pressure and just keep the pressure constant while changing down with the opposite hand. And pretty much when you're on the throttle, it's normally locked out at the top in most instances, so it's not too bad for changing up without giving any interference on that control. Right, okay, so we'll just turn the wheel a bit more, might help. So yeah, plenty of practice, and hopefully competitive enough. So just a couple of points which I want to raise about some of the controls that I have. So why an OSW if I can't use all of the strength? So as for instance, I probably have this at around about 2 to 2.5 amps. After turning it down to 47 Newton meters in the sim. So that gibberish basically means that I've got it quite low in the sim, so I don't have peaks going into the red on the force feedback. So I then turn it up on the motor control to the sort of strength that I like. So anywhere from 2 to 2.5 amps. And that's purely down to the disability. I don't have the grip to control the wheel. I don't have the stomach muscles. I don't have the back muscles, so I don't have the stability to put a lot of or counter the forces that are coming out of the wheel itself. Now the other question, so the reason why I've got the OSW is to do with fidelity. So the speed of the wheel, the feedback that it gives you, the amount of slides you can catch, and all the fine detail that comes through is just, you just can't get anything like it. You've got to have a direct drive. So why did I go from the pros to the ultimates? The reason why I did that, I wanted the pneumatic pistons that are one of the options, or not an option, but one of the core elements that is the ultimates. So the ultimates are about taking the ultimate forces that are required to drive a real life car. So I don't need it clearly for those level of forces, but I want it for the pistons to smooth out and give me that smooth feeling as I go through the throttle. You don't feel it in the brake, but you certainly feel it in the throttle. Now, when it comes to the build of these things, the rock solid, and I have used the hand controls on both the Pro and the Ultimates, and I can tell a difference when I press the brake pedal, and when I actually when I even do the throttle pedal, there is a different mass feeling when you pull. There is a different weight. There is a different sort of rigidity, and sort of, you just know that there's more pedal there. It's like a more meat to that pedal, and that feels so much more like the car that's sat outside. So that is it a hard pedal to press? I always see this on the forums. So is the Pro hard pedal to press? No, it's not. Absolutely go out and get the Pros. Is the Ultimates a step up in the way that it's a hard pedal to press? I honestly don't think it's that much more to press. I use the palm of my hand to press. Yes, you've got levers involved and whatnot to maybe help supplement a direct push on the pedal, but I don't think I would say, if you've got the money and you've heard good enough reviews about the Ultimates, I'd skip the Pros, go straight to the Ultimates. But you can always do the stepping stone. You can certainly do that. So just go ahead and just jump out of the sim, and we'll just come out of there, and I'll just jump back to the desktop. Now, all of the companies that I've mentioned, so we've got SimRacing Bay, we've also got Husingveld Engineering. The company that we got all of the profile from is Motordis. So all of these links I'll put them in the description below. So Motordis is based in Germany. We've got SimRacing Bay, which is Tomo. In fact, the version of the kit that I have is this small one here, the really dinky one. You can get the ones with the bigger cases, but everything fits in, and it's a great little package there. The Ultimates from Husingveld Engineering, these are the pedals. They recently upgraded their website, which looks great. Niels and Sven over at Husingveld, fantastic customer support, and you'll come across how much people rate the support that they get from Husingveld. Excellent company. We've got the Nissa switches, the SLIs from Leo Bodner. You can also get the enclosure from Leo as well. It's surprising how much that enclosure makes a difference to the bare PCB, to be quite honest. It's really works really well if you're not going to mount it inside of a wheel itself. SimLab, we've got the bracket here. This is exactly what we ordered and just mounted it. I also got the 200mm extension from here, as I mentioned. This is the OMP chair that I bought. So as I mentioned, I got the XL version because of my height. And this software that you saw on the top screen on the pictures is JLT. This is one that I use all of the time. Always bringing out updates, any little bug fixes. As I understand, it is a one-man band as such, so I think he does this in his spare time as well as having his day job. And the app itself, I think it's widely used by pretty much all of the teams and individuals that use iRacing. So I highly recommend. I don't think it's expensive. I think it's about €15, something like that. I'd recommend going out and getting that. It's worth every penny. It can go onto tablets. You don't have to have it as part of it on a computer screen, so you can have it on a tablet and use a second PC. Okay, so if there is any questions, if there's anything that you'd like to ask, please put it in the comments below. I'm more than happy to answer those for you. To be quite honest, I don't really know what else I would do to this. I think maybe buttons around the back of the wheel is maybe the only other option that I'd like to change. But that's it pretty much. I don't see of anything else that I would change. So hopefully I've not rambled on too much. Hopefully it's been educational, if not entertaining at some points. But yeah, by all means, comments below. And I will see you on iRacing if you do use the service, or if you want to go ahead and join the service. Thank you very much. Take care.